Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is a very warm week this week, which makes cooking feeling a little less, tolerable. But I do need to get a few things done. I have that box of chicken in the fridge defrosting. It hasn't defrosted as yet, and it is marked trim, so I'd say it would be a variety of different size pieces. We'll just have to have a look at it once it's defrosted. So hopefully tomorrow that should be defrosted enough to pull apart and have a look. The other thing I wanted to do though was make granola because it is summer and I would prefer that the kids start having some cold breakfasts. So granola yogurt or granola and milk or whatever else, or even just the granola on its own. Now I do make it fairly sweet because that's what the kids like. So if you don't make it how they like to eat it, then they're not going to eat it. They also like it in clusters, so to add that little bit of extra work on. But it is nice as a snack to be able to go and grab it like a cluster out of the jar and eat it as a snack. So we're going to work on that. So basically I just do a whole bunch of ratios of different things to make it work. Now I think I've got a bulk granola video on the channel already, but it's a sourdough one. So I use sourdough to make the clusters basically, except that I'm not doing sourdough at the moment. I have some old starter in the fridge, but I would have to feed it for a few days and get it going and get a nice big bulk amount to do the granola, and I'm not going to do that at the moment. Maybe later on, like maybe the next batch I will, I'm not sure. But so instead we're just going to do real classic style. This recipe is based on dozens that are around where you just personalize it to how you want. Now my oat bags come in 1.5 kilos, so that's what I'm going to do. So to do that, we've got 1.5 kilos of oats. We're going to measure up the other stuff. So we're going to melt our sweeteners and stuff. I've got this pot. It's probably a bit big, but it was just the easiest to find pot. So we're going to put in here, though, we're going to put 300 grams of coconut, 450 grams of coconut oil. Ish. We're going to put the same amount of maple syrup. You could use honey. I prefer maple syrup, so if I'm going to eat some of this, I would prefer it to have maple syrup. Also, it doesn't burn as easily, so if you're using honey, you do have to be really careful not to burn it because honey just burns really easily. So we're going to use 450-ish of that as well. This is just the end of it, so I'm going to just let the last of that trickle out. And when I make smooth pops next, I might put a bit of water in that and shake it up and put that in the smoothie pops. And then I'm going to use coconut sugar as my sugar of choice, purely because I have it. Normally I would just use raw sugar, but because I have coconut sugar. Someone asked me the other day why I use coconut sugar when it's as expensive as it is. I got a 10 kilo bulk bag of out of date coconut sugar. Sugar doesn't go out of date, but out of date coconut sugar, really cheap for coconut sugar. It was $4 or $5 a kilo or something, which is really cheap compared to full price coconut sugar, but still 2 to 3 times the price of raw sugar. So I do predominantly use raw sugar, but for this, the flavor of the coconut sugar will be really nice. So we're going to do the same again, about the 450. And then I'm going to melt this down and turn it into a little bit of a syrup to use to put over my oats. So I've just got it on low heat, and that will be fine. So then I've got my really big bowl. I really need to find, I got this from it was a marketplace it was before we even moved out, I think. And it was like an restaurant or something. It was a whole bunch of stuff, and it was one of the items, and I haven't seen bowls that big since. I should check Nisbet's. They probably have something similar. I just have to contact them direct for shipping when I want something, because shipping doesn't work on their site for me. All right, so we've got 1.5 kilos of oats. To that, we're going to add some almond meal, which helps to create the clusters. You could use oat flour as well if you wanted, but just a finer grain than the rolled oats will help to create the clusters. We're going to do again, keeping the ratios all nice and simple. So we're going to do 450 of this one and throw that in there with the other dry. And then we're going to do mix-ins and stuff. And we're going to do 600 grams all up of these. So let's start with, so that's 250 of those. I've got some pecans here. We might bump this up a little bit actually. I'm working on my notes, but it doesn't feel like enough mix-ins for the ratio of oats, but we will see. I'll mix it through and then I'll make a call. So I'm just breaking up into some rough chunks pecans because I love pecans toasted in granola. It's amazing. And I don't always have them because they're an expensive nut, but they're really nice in muffins and stuff too, but definitely in granola. So I'm just roughly, I could get a board out and a knife, but I'm trying to avoid rearranging and more dishes and stuff. So we're going to take the long way. But you know, that's what happens every now and again. I suppose I could have put all my sugar ingredients in the Thermomix too and let it stir and dissolve it, but I didn't think about it at the time. So, oh well, I'll remember that for next time. So yes, I'm just breaking up that about 100 grams of these. It's really up to you. You just want to, I've got written down 600 grams, but it doesn't feel like enough. Though it is 900 grams of mix-ins, including the almond meal. No, it is a kilo to the kilo and a half of oats. So it's probably not that bad. Next I'm going to add coconut, which I just have shredded coconut here. A couple of handfuls of that. Then we're going to add some chia seeds. We're going to add some sesame seeds, which is an odd one, I know, but I really like them. And we'll just top that up a little bit. And that gives us our 600. So I'm going to mix this through and we'll have a look at where it sits, I think, and then make the call. Now you can add dried fruit if you want, though I don't add dried fruit very much because none of us are particularly fond of it. But if you are adding dried fruit, I would suggest adding it afterwards, not straight away. Because of the amount of time that this will spend in the oven, your dried fruit can burn a little bit. So I'm just giving the sugar mix a quick stir and I've got it down on low. All right, just breaking up some more of these pecans. I just feel like it needs a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more coconut because that just didn't feel like enough. Might bring it up to the 900 mark. And then the worst that's going to happen with the mix-ins, with overdoing your mix-in ratio, is that it's not going to cluster as well because the sweeteners aren't going to coat it well enough. But that's not really that big a deal. It's still going to be tasty and completely edible. It's just not necessarily going to cluster as well. So I would prefer to bump the nuts and stuff and do that. I buy slivered almonds purely for granola because I just find it so convenient rather than trying to chop whole almonds and get some decent sized chunks without taking them to powder and stuff like that. Whoops. So there we go. We've just added, so it's 900 grams all up I've added there. And I think that's a much better. So it was 1.5 kilos of oats. We added 450 grams of the almond meal, and then we added 900 grams of mix-ins. If you want to add chocolate to yours as well, you could add some cocoa now if you wanted. But if you're adding chocolate chips, you need to do that after it's baked. When it's still warm, sprinkle them over the top. They'll melt slightly and then reset. But if you put it in now, it doesn't work. Now my syrup has dissolved. So next thing I'm going to do is add some vanilla, because nothing beats vanilla. And because there is already oil in this, I'm going to oil my vanilla spoon so that I don't waste any. And someone asked the other day, I did put in the comments, New Genie Naturals is who I order my vanilla off. I should approach them for a discount or something for everyone. And I'm going to put 3 tablespoons. I'm being overly generous. You don't have to put that much in, but it's very tasty. So we've taken that off the heat so that we don't scald the vanilla. Got the vanilla in there, and then we're just going to pour it over here. I haven't added any salt actually. I will add just 2 teaspoons-ish of salt over the top of that, and then we're going to pour our syrup. Make sure to get all that goodness out of the pan, and then we're going to actually, I'll use the wooden spoon. Now I'll start it with the spoon, and then I'll probably go in with my hands. I know everyone loves that, but what we want is we want every little bit of dry oats to be coated. So to do that, you need to be able to sort of massage it through. But that sugar is a little bit warm at the moment. Alright, and I'm just going to crinkle it through my hands so that at the moment we're not aiming for the clusters right this minute. We're just aiming to coat everything, a bit warm, everything in the oil and sweetener mix, so that we don't have any excessive spots that are dry. And if need be, because I bumped up some of those quantities, I'll just pour a little bit more coconut oil over it to make sure that everything's nice and moist. Just going to make sure I've got everything off the bottom. It looks pretty well coated actually, so I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm just going to wash my hands again, and then I'm going to get some pans sorted. I should have taken photos of this so it could have been a website one, but I didn't even think about it. Now theoretically there's about 4.2 kilos of granola here, okay? So we're going to put it on trays, and to get the clusters, what we need to do is we need to like put it solidly on the trays, but flattened with a little bit of a gap in the middle. So quantity wise, maybe what I need to do is weigh out a quantity for each tray. So if it's 4.2, I wonder if we can get a kilo on each tray. So let me weigh out a kilo. All right, we've got just over a kilo here. So let's put this on here. Breaking up little bits of pecan if I see big chunks of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to, I just realised that Alexa was going in the background with kids' music. Hopefully it wasn't loud enough to hear through the mic, because it becomes a copyright issue. So we're going to push this down nice and firm. A little bit of a donut in the middle, because that will help with cooking it evenly without burning the outside edges before the middle gets cooked. All right. So we're just pressing this down nice and firm. And then we're going to do the next one, and then we'll put them in the oven. Now, 20 to 45 minutes. It really is going to depend on your oven, the amount of sugar that you've got in them, how thick you've put it, how much you've put on a tray, all these things. You have to watch it, and you may have to rotate your trays. So in this ratio, I've got these cookie sheets, which are full cookie, half cookie sheets, aren't they? I think they're half cookie sheets. And I've got just over a kilo on there. With the donut in the middle, we will see how long it takes. My oven is unpredictable though, and it doesn't do low temperatures very well because the gas kicks in and out, and it's already like 35 degrees today. So we will see, but my cooking times aren't necessarily valid cooking times for everyone. But I'm going to do another tray up of this, and I'll cook 2 trays at a time. I only own 3 of these trays. Otherwise, I could do all 4 at once and rotate them, because I've got 2 racks in the oven, but I only own 2 of them. So I may as well just do 2 lots of 2 rather than 3 in a 1. So I'm going to get another one put together. Second one done. Now, do remember that if you reduce your sugar content, you're going to end up with less overall weight. So be aware of that when you're trying to decide how much to put on each tray. I don't think I mentioned either. The other reason that we have it as sweet as we do, because this is quite sweet, is because I don't want the kids adding anything to it afterwards. So I could make it less sweet and allow them to add maple syrup or something to it when they're eating it, but that defeats the purpose of portion control and all the rest of it. So I make it at a level of sweetness that's a bit sweeter than I'd like, but doable. and they don't add anything to it. I also don't sweeten my homemade yogurt other than with fruit puree, which also is not sweetened. So this is the sweet aspect of all of that. So you need to, at your discretion, to decide whether you sweeten this, you sweeten what it's mixed with, or whatever else, or whether it's a snack, or whether you use a sugar-free sweetener or whatever. Personal preference. So I'm going to get these two into the oven. I'm going to clean up, cover this up, and then we will see how long this one takes, and I will get the next lot done. So this is like when it comes out. This is still a bit warm, so I'm not breaking it up yet, but you can see that it's in like a sheet. So as it cools a bit more, you can stick it in the freezer or the fridge if you want. It will harden that little bit more and be less flexible, and we'll break it up into chunks. But you want it toasty brown, not too cooked, because otherwise you get your sugars burning. And this is what it looks like. So I've got the other, because these were hot, I didn't want to take them off until they cooled. Didn't think about that. So I've got a pan like this in there, but I've also got two smaller pans that I managed to fit all three in the oven. So they're in there cooking now, and this is what we've got at the moment. The kids have been picking at it, so there's some loose bits. All right, these are pretty much cool enough to do. I don't want to do it before the next lot comes out, just because I don't want it. I don't want so much on my bench. So that's all we do. We just break them into clusters. Some will be smaller than others. Some is a little bit chewier than other sections, depending on if the thickness is a little bit different. We're not going to put the lid on this jar sealed until it's all completely cool. But it works as a snack, as a cereal, as all sorts of things. So all I do is just, now the edges are still a bit crunchier than the middle. I probably could have gone a little bit longer or a little bit thinner. I think I'd really like to get some more of these cookie sheets. I think I've got some stainless steel ones on my Amazon list. My Amazon list is available for you guys to look at, and I thoroughly appreciate every time someone buys something from it. But my Amazon list is also for me to keep track of things that when I've got some spare cash, I grab things off there as well. So some of the stuff that gets bought on that list is me buying it. But someone did send me, I couldn't find a little slip in it. Normally there's a slip from who it comes from, but someone did buy me a few sets of the colourful spatulas that were on my list the other day. Thank you very much. And I also got some more of the little ice cube trays with the lid on them. That was a couple of weeks ago, I think. And what else did I get? I got another one of the cast iron pie dishes. Someone's, Pauline sent me that one. And a little treat in there as well for the family. There was something else. Oh, cutting boards. I don't know if I mentioned, I did say thank you in the comments. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I do have a list of all these things. But some more of the Arana cutting boards. So that is fantastic. All these things that I can do without, I can. I don't need them, but I'd like them. And so I put them on my list thinking, well, I'll get to them eventually, but they're not necessary. And then you guys gift some of them to me, and I am forever grateful. Because, you know, I do feel like sometimes I hope that people don't think that I'm crying poor in any way, because I'm not. Our budget has been thrown by a lot of things this year, and it's been a bit crappy, but we manage, we really do. And I'm very good at budgeting, and the kids never go without. We just don't get some of the extras sometimes, or some of the project work done. But there's always enough to, you know, no one's going without. So, and we eat well, because food is made a significant priority in my budget. So, but I am grateful nonetheless for anything anyone ever sends. And I think Amazon lists are a great way for people to do that, because then they know they're sending something that you want. I was thinking the other day that maybe I need to do some lists up with the kids for some small things for Christmas, because everyone always asks if there's anything, what the kids are into at Christmas time, because they like to send them small things. So maybe I need to sit down with some of the kids and go through some Amazon listings and see if there's some stuff that they might like to add to a list for Christmas. That might be an idea. So anyway, going to get all these in. The last lot is almost done, which is why I wanted to get these sorted now, because I don't really have room to have them out and protected. And then that will be it for the moment. Hopefully I can do that chicken tomorrow, and that will be the end of this video, and I'll put it out on Friday morning. Just popping back to say too, I bought these Salisbury & Co. half-gallon jars at suggestion of a few people instead of the Aussie Mason, Ball Mason ones, because they were free shipping. So they end up being cheaper per jar because they're free shipping. They're not cheaper per jar than these ones, just cheaper per jar because they're free shipping. This is the third that has cracked. One of them smashed completely. I've got one that's got a big crack down the side, and I've just picked this one up and noticed this one has a smash in it too. Now, we are pretty hard on our jars. We are. I'm aware of that. But they're not very good quality for like I don't know whether it's the shape, whether it's the way it has this really hefty shoulder, or don't know, but I can't recommend them. The Aussie Masons have worked really well. I don't use any of these for canning. The half-gallon jars are purely storage. Aussie Mason are on par with the Ball Mason. I don't have a Ball one here, but are on par with the Ball Mason one. I have not had a single problem with these, but I think I've had 3 smash, crack, whatever, in, I think I've only had them 2 weeks. So, like, you know, they're fine when they arrive, but they just do not seem to tolerate the wear and tear that happens in this house. And I know we're rough on things, we are, but it still seems a little, you know, I'm just going to say that because you'll all see me using them, and I don't want people running out and buying them. And I'm sure there'll be people who'll mention in the comments that they haven't had any problems with them. It could be a bad batch of jars, totally. But for us, I wouldn't buy them again. So great price with the free shipping, but yeah, I'm not going to be grabbing them again. So just wanted to say that because I'm showing them in footage all the time that I'm using them, which means that people might sit there and go, well, she must like them, but I'm actually not real keen on them. So I must have put this one a little bit thinner, it's different position in the oven or whatever, because it's a little bit crispier. I don't know. It's they're all going to be tasty. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Back again. Will say though, I do love these IKEA jars, but when I got these, I got them delivered with all the bookcases and stuff that we bought. And the shipping was like $129, which was fine because I ordered a whole lot of stuff at once, like bookcases and shelving and all that sort of stuff. Now, I went to get some more jars and a few extra bits and pieces the other day, order online, and they've had an update to their shipping and stuff, and it's now $499 to ship to me. And yes, I did contact them, and they did say, yes, that is correct. So I can no longer order things to be delivered from IKEA, and I just find it's a lot of effort to go when I'm in Brisbane. Mum's place is not near an IKEA. It's a little bit out of the way. And normally I have so much stuff that I'm doing anyway, and I'm loaded up to the eyeballs and stuff, so I don't know. I would like some more of them though. I do prefer them. I have the Kmart ones, you see them all the time too. I don't have one on hand, but they have the glass lids, and I do prefer these plastic lids. Similar sort of a jar, plastic lids instead of the glass lids. You can get glass lids for these too, I think. But yeah, I do like these jars. I think they're good. I love how wide open the tops of them are. The mason jars are really good for like pouring and stuff, but like I've just put granola in this one, and pouring out's fine, but once some of it's eaten, trying to access it as like snacking is not going to be great. So this one will need to be like a cereal one. But yeah, but anyway, just add that in. Alrighty, it is Thursday and the plans to do the chicken went out the window because it is already 2:45 in the afternoon for a start, but that's because I checked the chicken this morning and it still wasn't defrosted enough. It is definitely on its way. Tomorrow should be fine. I could probably use a knife to get it apart, but because it's in different sized pieces, I didn't want to cut it and then not know what I had left. Like, I'd prefer to pull it apart in the pieces it's in, so I left it for today. I will probably pull a couple of pieces off the top to use for dinner tonight though. I might do, I don't know, green curry or something with some of it, with some veggies. We got the zucchinis from the hamper as well, so I might do something like that. So that got put off. The granola's all jarred up from yesterday, and I just wanted to do something else to put on the end of this video to make it more the length of time that mine normally are, but also because I ended it yesterday saying that I was going to come back. So one thing I do need to do, this coffee concentrate has been half price at Coles and Woolworths lately, and they have a caramel or a vanilla or plain coffee one. This one has no carbs in it because it's plain coffee. So we have been buying this. We bought 2 bottles because we wanted to try it at half price, and using it with some heavy cream watered down to make like keto type milk. So that Darryl is having low carbs for that. So normally we would have 3 coffees a day. We'd have one in the morning, one during the middle of the day, and one of an evening after dinner. In the middle of the day when it's this temperature, I don't want a hot coffee. And because of the cups that we drink our coffee out of, it stays too hot to drink too. So a cold coffee is good. We got our replacement ice machine. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that our ice machine was replaced under warranty. We have that now, so we can use that to make the iced coffees too. So I make up some keto milk, and then I pour this in it as well, and we pour it over a big cup of ice. I'll show it to you afterwards. We'll make one. So we bought this because it was half price to give a go. It works really well. We did make cold brew. We used to make cold brew last year. I probably showed you how I made cold brew in a half gallon jar with the grinds, and then in the fridge for 24 hours and strained and used that way. It's actually really expensive because to get it strong enough, and then in the quantities that we would drink it, it ended up being not very efficient cost-wise to continue to make it in the quantity that we were drinking it. So what we actually circled back to at the time was using a whizzy cup is what we call them, but the personal blender type thing with ice and instant coffee and stuff in it, and you just blended it together to be sort of like a frappe. But when you make frappes like that, you have to have the right size ice for it for a start, which is doable with the ice machine, but you also end up with a lot of froth, and it's just not as fun to drink. You lose some of it. So I wasn't keen on that. So I used to make iced coffee syrup in the Thermomix many years ago, but it has a high ratio of sugar in it. It's 1 part sugar, 1 part boiling water, 1 part instant coffee, and we don't want to use the sugar, and I don't want to use allulose or anything like that either. I would prefer to just use a squirt of my Choc Zero syrups that I mentioned last time. I might get Kavik to go and grab a few of them, my coffee syrups that are on the ground near my desk. Can you grab them for me so I can show them on camera? So I mentioned that the one we're using at the moment is Cupcake. I showed that one to you, but I've got a variety of flavours because they had 20% off. So I bought 5 or 6 or something all at once, and I will use them for the next 3 or 4 months. However long they last. I haven't really tracked how long they last. I just tend to buy a new one when the sale is on, somewhere around when I'm due for them. And if they're not on sale, I just don't buy another one until it is. So, so the idea is that, so I went Googling to see if I could still make the coffee syrup, but without adding sugar to it, will it still be stable enough to use? Now, of course, store it in the fridge. And from everything I've read, it should be fine to basically do the same thing with just coffee and water and no sugar in it. So when I bought these half price, they also Nescafe had a new instant coffee out. A caramel and a hazelnut. So I thought that this would be nice as an instant coffee. It is got natural caramel in it, natural caramel flavors, in it, soluble coffee, no carbs. Kavik went and grabbed them. So I got a few. I got French vanilla, I got toasted marshmallow, I got my cinnamon dolce, which I really like in hot coffees, and the white chocolate, as well as that cupcake one. So I got myself a variety of them. When they're on special, they're about $20 each. And I only use, like it says a serving size is 2 tablespoons, 30 mils. I don't use that. I use 1 pump, which I think is, can't remember if it's 10 or 15 mils. I'd have to look it up, but one of the syrup pumps. So I use 1/3 to 1/2 of a serve at a time, so I get plenty out of it. But so I'm going to try making the coffee syrup out of this. So I'm going to do, I would normally do 2 cups of instant coffee, 2 cups of boiling water, 2 cups of sugar. So I don't imagine that without the sugar it needs to be quite that strong. So what I might do is 2 cups of boiling water and a cup of instant coffee, and we'll try that first. All right, so I've got the kettle boiling. It took me a while to find a measuring cup, mind you. And I'm going to put a cup, which I think will be pretty much most of the jar in. Maybe I just, we don't know, do we? So we'll do a cup, which really should do it by weight. It says in this that it's got 95 grams. I did use a tiny bit though, but I'm going to put the rest of the jar in there. So let's say that I only used it for cakes. So let's say I used like 5 grams. There's about 90 grams in there. So we're going to put 1 part coffee to 2 parts boiling water, and we will see how this goes. And we're going to start with, we're going to put boiling water in it, and then we're going to run it at 90 degrees for 10 minutes so that it's infusing, and it'll reduce slightly as well. It reduces a little bit more when there's sugar in it because it goes kind of syrupy. I'm not entirely sure how it works without the sugar, but that's why we're doing it. We're going to give it a go. Try and decide if there's anything else I need to quickly get done this afternoon before. I've been waiting on some seeds to come in the post, and they finally arrived today, so I'm going to be doing some seeds starting, but it's too hard to film while I'm doing that. Not set up for that at all at the moment. I probably should make some bread. We haven't got any bread at the moment. And I don't really want to make it tomorrow because if I'm starting on the chicken early, then I don't want to do that. And if I make it now, it means that they've got bread tomorrow for lunches and stuff, and means they won't be underfoot in the kitchen while I'm doing the chicken stuff. So that's probably a good idea. So once I get this going, I might mix up some bread dough. Maybe I'll make the that slightly different recipe that I'm trying to make of the baguettes again and make sure it works and I'm happy with it. And then that way, once it's done, and try and take some photos. And then that way, if it's done, I can get that up on the website. I think that'll work. I did open up the Discord. I'm rambling a lot, which is normally what happens on my Sunday videos. So you'll get double rambling from me while I'm doing this. I did open up the Discord for to the members only to initially get them joined to have a look and see it was all working. It all seems to be working, so I'll put the link to that in the comments. And I also got the toilet paper roll dispensers up on the website, as well as the gasher machines, that if anyone's interested in them. As I said, I'm making them for my kids, and I'll hold licensing for a couple of months just in case anybody wants to buy them, and then I'll see how we go from there. But I adore them. I think they're fantastic. So and eventually we'll get some bits and pieces of sonnets up as well, but for the moment we can stick with that. The toilet paper rolls, I've already had half a dozen to a dozen of those orders come through, so I've been churning some of them out. I had a request for some stars, one with stars on it, so I'm designing that at the moment. And some personalized sayings and stuff. So if you want something specific on yours, or you've got a smart comment that you want to put on your dispenser, then that is fine too. Just put it in the requests. I got a request for some rainbow ones, so we did some rainbow ones, which was very cool. See, that's 180 grams. It's not a lot of, like, depending on how much you're using per coffee, that's not a lot in total, is it? Like, it doesn't feel like enough. I think I'm going to go 1 to 5. What is this? So this says that it's 8.3% coffee. So it's only like 1 to 10 concentrate. So if I go 1 to 5, and do 450 grams of water, then that should fit in a pint jar. So that's probably a good sort of a ratio. I didn't realize I was that close to the camera. My apologies, people. So let's take this up to 450. And I'm going to put a lid on that. And I'm just going to run it. The flies are bad today. So I'm going to put it for 10 minutes on 90 degrees on speed 2. We might bump it to 3. Let me just see what it sounds like. Yeah, we might go up to 3. Because we want it to be moving so that all that dissolves. And we're going to give that a go. Because if it had sugar added to it, see, it would have had the like 1 part coffee, 1 part water, 1 part sugar, which would have created more bulk in the end. We will see. I'm going to give it a go. We'll use it regardless. It just might have to be used slightly differently to how we expect to be able to use it. So once it's done, I will chill it for a bit and we'll make one up. But I'm going to mix some bread up in the meantime. Now, mind you, the kids have now run out of Ninja Creamy as well as the smoothie pops. They probably prefer that I was doing that at the moment, but you know, that is life. So, and then I'm just going to knead this up. I'll bring you back once it's sorted and once the coffee's done. All right, coffee syrup's been going for 10 minutes and it's all dissolved. Look, my fancy, pretty new spatulas. Thank you, whoever sent me this. I'm sure there was, if there was supposed to be a note in there to say who they were from, it wasn't in there. But thank you very much, because these are awesome. There's all different shapes and sizes, and yeah, amazing. Thank you very much. I have been going to buy new spatulas, and they're not an expensive item, but it's just one of those things that I put off and go, nah, I can deal with the couple that I've got that have, you know, bits broken off them and stuff like that. But to have new ones is really neat, and they are just, they're very pretty. So that's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that into something, stick it in the freezer to chill it, and then I'll make one afterwards and show you how I make it, and we'll give it a taste. See if it's too harsh, too bitter being instant coffee or what, without any sugar added to it, with just the sweetener from the Choc Zero sweeteners. I don't know, we will see. So I'm going to put that in the freezer. The dough is done as well, so I need to get a container for that to proof in, and it's working. It's really still nice and soft and really nice, but not as tacky as the normal brioche dough, and that's what we were going for. So hopefully those ratios are exactly what I need, and then I'll be able to share them. So I'm going to put that in a container, this in a container, and I'll come back afterwards. All right, so what I do is we mix up the milk first. So we use a serving size of this is 20, so I end up putting 80 in a quart jar, like that. And then I'll top it almost all the way up with water. I'm going to put some water in this one that's almost empty as well, and grab it from the Berkey. Like that, and then we give it a bit of a shake. All right, just give that a shake to blend the cream with the water, and there we go. We've got low carb milk, that's the equivalent of anyway. Now, I'm not sure how much of the coffee syrup we're going to need. The serving size on this one is 50 mils, but I end up doing 65-ish for the quantity per person for this sort of thing. But this, as I said, is like 1 to 10 or 1 to 9, and we ended up making this like 1.5. So I'd imagine that I don't need as much. So what I'm going to do is let's start with 30 per person. So let's start with 60. Yeah, so we've got 60 mils there in that one. We'll give it a shake. It looks a nice colour. So then we've got our cups full of ice from the ice machine, and all I do is pour it over the top. Though I do normally add the sweetener to this just to make it easier to blend. So I will do that. So I tend to only have one of these open at a time. So we're still doing cupcake. Squirt for each serve and give it a bit of a shake up so that it's blended through. Do normally use cold water, but both the cold water jugs were empty in the fridge. So, but that's fine because there's plenty of ice. And we should be using smaller cups, but this is going to be the treat for today. So that's how we make that. So we will, pretty good. I think I could bump the coffee a little bit. We'll ask Darryl, but that worked perfectly. That worked almost exactly the same as this. So I'm happy with that. So now all it will be, we'll be seeing how well it sits in the fridge. But I don't see that it'll be any issue, but you know, I'll let you know. My dough is ready. So I'm going to shape that up next. I'm just going to take Darryl's coffee into him and get this cream in the fridge and stuff like that. And just as a side note, that ended up being, it's about 420 mils, plus we used the 60 there, so say 480. So if we say 30 mils per serve, what are we saying? That's like, I don't know, 450s, 15 serves per that amount. This coffee is more expensive than standard coffee. We use 90 grams of this coffee. I'll have to have a look at the price of standard Nescafe on sale and have a look at the price for, say, 90 grams to make 15 serves versus the $5.50 when this is half price to make the 10. So that ends up being about 55 cents per serve. 60 cents probably because we bump up the quantity a little bit when it's half price. So we want this equivalent to end up cheaper. This probably wasn't with the flavoured coffee, and I don't think it's really necessary. It was just a fun idea. But I'll have a look at the pricing. Alrighty, my dough is well and truly ready. So just going to tip that out. You know, I discussed with you guys about making sure I took some photos, and I haven't even taken any photos yet. That is what happens. So this is my dough. So let me take a photo of this nice looking dough. All right, now the weight of this dough with the adjusted measurements is 2-ish kilos, all right? Now what I'm going to do, because they were a bit big, the last lot, when I split it into 10. So I'd like to split it into a few more than that. We're going to go for 15, I think, which gives me about 130 to 135 per. So really not loving this new dough cutter thing that I mentioned last time. I need to find my other ones that have gone missing, or buy some more of those ones, which are really cheap ones, but just work. Let's just loose ball them to rest, and I'll keep going with these, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so we've got 15 balls, and we're going to do the normal. I'm going to just stretch them out with my hand, try and keep them fairly even, and then roll them. Now, if you roll the edges and then bring the middle in, you end up with them with the edges more even. And all I'm going to do is that. Just like that, and we're going to have these smaller individual size sub-type rolls. I might just sprinkle a little semolina on the baking tray and just use a little bit here to gently roll them in like I normally do. Just like that. And the idea is that I might be able to fit all 15 on one tray, 5, 5 and 5. That was why I picked this size. So I'm just going to repeat the process. I'm just going to spread them out like this, and then bring them in with a little bit of tension, but not too much. If you make sure your edges are in and then bring your center in, then your edges are going to be neater. Like that. Pinch them all, and then just give them a roll. So I'm just going to keep going, and I will show them to you once they're done. All right, it's the bread done. So they look perfect. They look exactly like what I was after. So bread is done. I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to start dinner. So that's it from me. The only thing, I did go and have a look at the pricing of instant coffee in between while I was waiting for this to cook. And it's gone up a lot since I last bought it, because I don't buy it very often, because I don't use it very often. Nescafe Blend 43 is on special this week for like $4.40 per 100 grams or something. $4. Yeah, so when I break it down with the quantities for the instant stuff, it actually ends up only very slightly cheaper than buying this when it's half price. I did look though that Coles and Woolworths both have their own brand of instant coffee, and maybe that'd be fine for this sort of thing, and that's a whole lot cheaper. It's only like $2.75 per 100. So from 100 grams we're looking at getting sort of 500 mils of concentrate, so say 10 servings. So this is $5.50 per 10 servings. So if I can do it for $2.75, then that's definitely worth doing. And of course this isn't half price all the time, it's only half price sometimes. So anyway, I had a look at that. But the Nescafe, yes, even on special at the moment, it's $4.40 per 100. So $5.50 for pre-mixed done, $4.40. So probably getting more coffee bang for your buck in the instant stuff versus that though, because that is only 8.3% coffee, so who knows. But anyway, that's it from me for this one, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.